Okay, video 10 of the Joseph Jackson in Nauvoo series, examining the spiritual wife system, the Danites, maybe a little bit of Council of 50. Well, this is the 10th, and that's about going to wind up the reading portion of this. You're in the Mormon Truth Video Library on the Dodger channel, Dodger Game channel, I should say, and we'll finish up the reading here. This has been really eye-opening, at least it was for me when I first read it. It's not like they tell us in Sunday school, is it? It's so far from it that it's difficult for people to even conceive that people could be so wicked. Another plot which was detected in the execution was this. I slept at Snyder's on the ground floor, immediately under a window. One night I was awakened by a kind of nibbling noise, like that of the gnawing of a rat. A curtain was drawn across the window, and the assassin was attempting to cut the putty from the glass, and then draw the curtain aside so that he might make a sure shot. On hearing the noise, I arose gently in bed and seized my pistol. The villain, however, heard the noise and fled. The next morning the tracks of his feet were visible. The cutting of the putty from the glass was also witnessed, and in the haste of the retreat, the fence had been knocked down. These things were seen by many of the Snyder family and others who will substantiate my statement. After the last evidences being presented to me of Joe's intentions on my life, I went several times to see him, but could never find him. He was sick or absent, or some such excuse was all the satisfaction I could get. Porter Rockwell had the impudence once to ask me what my business with the general was. I replied that it was a matter between him and me. My determination was to beard him in his villainy, and if he gave the slightest provocation, to shoot him. Shortly after the last mentioned attempt on my life, I left the holy city. As regards Lavina Smith, I should not have mentioned her name if it were not that William Smith last spring in St. Louis gave me the same statement in regards to Joe's treatment of her, Mrs. Milligan, and of his wife, which I have detailed above. William remarked that Mrs. Milligan had always thwarted Joe, and she always would, and the reason why Joe had treated him as he had was because he had always opposed him in his diabolical schemes of assassination. I believe that William is too honorable a man to deny this statement. Indeed, at one time it would have taken but little provocation to have induced him to have exposed Joe and all his schemes of villainy. For other corroboration on the incident with those ladies there in the Smith family. I have now given a brief sketch of some of the damnable practices carried on in the name of religion in Nauvoo, but to avoid an interruption I have omitted to narrate several matters that passed before my observation. The world is generally aware of the fact that Joe Smith was a candidate for the presidency. This has excited universal contempt and merriment, for no one conceived that Joe had any idea of his own success, but he had his even in this. I think that's a misprint. Which was more reasonable than deeper laid than a person unacquainted with him could imagine. His object was simply this. There was a Mr. Brown, formerly of Rushville, with whom I became acquainted in Nauvoo. Soon after my arrival there, this man had a wonderful genius for invention, and had planned a submarine battery and steam fire ship, which, to all appearance, is capable of great execution. He stated to me that he had been operating for 21 years in perfecting his work, but had not the means to bring the matter before the nation, and that Joe made him a proposition, which had caused him to remove to Nauvoo. This proposition was to furnish the means to take him, together with G.A. Adams and Orson Hyde, to Russia, where the invention would be laid before the emperor, and as Joe had great faith in its success, he expected a large sum for the secret, which Brown and Joe were to divide. This was palmed off on Brown, but was far from being Joe's real object. His real object, as he disclosed it to me, was this. He would first run for president and thus be able to prove to the Emperor of Russia his strength in the Union. He would then send G.A. Adams, Orson Hyde, and Brown to Russia, and after the utility of the invention had been fairly proved to the Emperor, Joe's proposition to him was to be submitted, which was to form a league for the overthrow of the powers that be. Now this may seem too ridiculous for any man to imagine possible. Nevertheless, no one acquainted with the excessive vanity of Joe Smith will doubt but that he in reality believed he could form even so preposterous a union. Joe's idea was that by the aid of Brown's invention he could introduce himself to the emperor, and having the strongest faith in the efficacy or efficiency of the new discovery as an instrument of warfare, he imagined that if His Majesty could once see the wonderful work, that he would be willing even to take him as a partner in the benefits for the sake of its advantages. As wild as this scheme may seem, it is no wilder than many of what have characterized Mormonism from its infancy. I deem it proper here to mention that I told Governor Ford after his arrival at Carthage of the substance of what I have disclosed in these pages, and moreover that I would pledge myself, if a posse sufficient for protection were furnished me, that I would go to Nauvoo and show the secret passages and hiding places in the city, and furnish the evidence of the strongest character to substantiate the truth of what I had stated to him in relation to the bogus operations or counterfeiting, spiritual wife inquiry, iniquity, plans of assassination, tampering with the Indians, etc. An order was given at one time to march the forces to Nauvoo, as I supposed, for that purpose, but after the arrival of a certain politician, things took a turn. The order was countermanded, and a portion of the troops were disbanded on the prairie. While on their march, the world is aware of what resulted from their exasperation and consequence thereof. The limits of these pages preclude any further remarks on the subject. The following affidavits are from men of unquestionable veracity. They speak for themselves. And he's got these affidavits signed before Justice of the Peace by, I don't know, 4 or 5 guys, including Harmon T. Wilson, who was the sheriff that he was working with on this, that he disclosed his plans to expose Joseph Smith, and several others. So they can all be read here. Yeah, several of them with their sworn statements that he had previously disclosed to them what his plan was here to expose Joseph Smith and the activities that were going on in Nauvoo.
Hope you like it.
Changing
at the bottom there, and subscribe and go right into the channel. Remember, we got over 70 videos. Honest they are, or they aren't, as they whitewash and try to get us to believe the only way we can find out if it's true is to pray about it, rather than compare actual evidence. But we learn better. MTV Library out.